That,
My research question started with how would I create an interesting 3D animated fight scene? I started out thinking of how fight scenes work and what I thought worked well. There's a two-part series made by, I'm probably butchering the pronunciation, Seno, called Putis Engage, which sounds stupid, but genuinely does have good fighting animation. The camera work is amazing. The exaggeration is amazing. It really focuses on the principles. It's a beautiful animation that really inspired this project. However, I immediately saw that and thought, I'm not able to do that. I need to go to basics. I need to sit down and think, where do I start? Do I just click?
on the arrows.
Oh, arrows. I started out with the 12 Principles of Animation, a book that was made by Frank Thomas and Ollie Johnston. It was published in 1981 and is still used as a source for character animation to this day. It's commonly referred to as the Bible of animation. It talks a lot about the how of early Disney animation rather than the what, and it ended up breaking it down into 12 principles of animation that's been reinterpreted, re-released, and redone by more people than I could count. The first of these principles was squash and stretch. Squash and stretch is fairly simple. It's one of the ways that you convince the audience that there is weight behind something, which is one of the most important aspects of 3D animation that I don't think they talked about in the book. The aspect of squash is basically when you push into something, it swells out. It gets wide, so it makes you feel that it's got and hit the ground hard. The aspect of stretch is that it does the polar opposite. It makes it thin and long to make it more aerodynamic and look like it's going fast. It's a fairly simple concept, but it's the first one. The second was anticipation. Anticipation is the wind-up before an action. If, say, you're in a fight and you just do that, it doesn't really look like much. If you rear back the punch and throw it forward, it all of a sudden looks like it's got a lot more weight. It all of a sudden looks like it's got a lot more impact, which is what's important when it comes to animation. You can also, however, do the opposite, completely lack anticipation in a quick jab to make an attack feel light and not have any weight. Small side note. Then there's staging. Staging is fairly simple. It's like composition on a picture or making a pretty photograph. You've got to make sure that the thing you want to capture is not only in the center of the frame, but the thing you want to capture is at an appealing angle. I've stolen this example here from this link here, but you can see with this example, you can't really see what that arm is doing, you can't really see the expression, it's side on, he looks like a side character. Here, you can see a lot more of the emotion, and here, you can see a lot more of the pose, it looks a lot more dynamic. That's the difference with staging. There are 12 of these, so I hope you're ready for me to yap for a bit. Straight ahead versus pose to pose are two different ways to do animation. They're fairly self-explanatory. Straight ahead animation, you just draw one frame after the other. You go in a line. It's useful if you want to do something fluid or if you want to do something entirely random. It's still used in some places, but the more common one, and the one that people most commonly default to, is pose to pose, where you start at the extremes of the points of the animation, and then you work on the in-between frames. This we'll be touching on later, so make sure you remember that. There's also exaggeration. Exaggeration was one of the ways to increase the emphasis or make it more obvious what someone was feeling. You wouldn't make someone cry, you would make their lips and jaw fall off and their mouth come down in an exaggerated frown and their eyebrows scrunch up in so many wrinkles you can't count them. It was insane amplification to the point where you can't help but see what they're feeling. It can be done with motion, and it can be done with squash and stretch as well. There's follow through and overlapping action, which again goes down to weight. If I were to quickly dash from one place to another, my jacket would move behind me. It's inertia, it's helping convince. The example here is the cape. You come down, the cape comes down, it sways forward, and then it sways back again to its resting thing. It's just following through. It's commonly used with clothes and hair and so on. Timing is how you get different speeds. If you've ever thrown or bounced a ball, you know that it goes really fast and then it slows down and then goes really fast again. Timing is just doing that. It's the spacing between the bounces. There's slow in and slow out, which is essentially the same thing. The example here is a pendulum, but you are going fast here, so you have less frames. You're going slow here, so you have more frames. They're more close together, there's less of a difference. It's not showing weight, it's showing speed in a convincing manner. Then there's arcing, which is commonly used to, again, with bouncing animations, but if something's flowing behind you, again, that cape from earlier, it goes in an arcing motion. If you're walking along, your arm goes in an arc below you. It's curves and circles, makes things look pretty. Secondary action is similar to, I forgot the name of it. Didn't I? Follow through and overlapping action. It's essentially the same thing. It's just the things around a person reacting after the movement. You might see a dust cloud from a footstep or so on. Solid drawing is getting the basic shapes of an animation. You would start out with a sketch and then you would layer something over the top. For Homer Simpson, they would have two cylinders here, and then when they were, for the sketching part of the animation, when they were figuring out the initial poses, and then they would move on to having full solid limbs. You wouldn't start with just a full solid drawing. It's not how you do art, and it's not how you do animation. And then appeal is not how you make things look good, but how you make things look interesting. It goes more into the design of the character. The shape here especially, but it can be talking about colours. You've got Superman with a bright big S on his chest. You've got Batman with his bat symbol. They're iconic and they're important to the interestingness of the character, or Two-Face, for example. I then made a pair of videos where I tried to show off an animation that would be done without the principles and show off an animation that would be done with them. Here's hoping it loads. That's it. That's the animation without the principles. It's literally just a hand going outwards. There's no weight behind it. There's not even really any arc because it just goes in a straight line. It's horrible and it's bad and it doesn't feel right, but that's intentional.
It's on top.
It's on top.
Just next to the YouTube.
Oh,
Yeah.
it is. And then here, it's not good, but it's better. You've got the stretch when they're falling, you've got the slight squash as they come down, you've got the exaggeration of them bringing that hand back and throwing it forward. It's emphasis, it's more interesting, and it looks good as far as I'm aware.
Again, up top.
Oh yeah, it's back in the... Forgot. How did F11? F11. 3D animation is an entirely different ballgame-ish to 2D animation. 3D animation, you don't have drawings, typically. You've got a shape, and those shapes, I've put this in a horrible order. Those shapes are controlled by bones. Those bones control different bits of the shape with weight painting, and the shapes are made of vertices, and they're went between with keyframing. Let's just go on to bones because that makes more sense. Bones is the structure of the movement. They are the joints, they are the elbows, they are the wrists, they are the fingers, they are how you move. These sections here are straight, and they typically remain so unless you do something fancy. These sections here are where they bend. You can see the joints there, it's incredibly clear. There's not much to say about bones. Vertices are how you make up a shape. You've got vertices in a 3D space, kind of like a graph, but in 3 dimensions. You connect those two vertices together with an edge. It's hidden down there, but you can guess. And then 4 or 3 of those edges come together to form a face. You control these vertices, and I say specifically these vertices and not these edges and not these faces, using the bones. The bones here, for example, on this green bone, they affect the vertices of the blue cuboid directly. They have 100% influence. There is nothing that stops them from, controlling the bone. If you move the green bone, you are moving the blue shape. The red joint in the middle has a 50-50 split between each of these bones. So that the red joint in the middle, when the bone turns, say, 90 degrees, the red joint is only at 45 degrees to show that there is a bend. It's how you do chaining, is how, Keyframing is going back to pose. I told you to remember it. Keyframing is when you get to 2 different poses, for example, here, and then you go between the 2. You go between the 2 with interpolation. That figures out, you remember the slow in and slow out from earlier. It goes slowly and then I've got an example here of just keyframing. These are just the keyframes, there's no interpolation between them. And you can see the obvious bends there. But if you add a quick bit of interpolation, all of a sudden, it looks like an animation that actually is somewhat passable, rather than just glitching from place to place. Why have you went full screen? That's not what I wanted you to do. Cool. IK and FK are 2 of the ways that you can control bones. You see these 2 long bones here. I'll keep using them just because they're convenient. It's kind of like an arm. IK would be if you grabbed a hold of my wrist and started moving that around in 3D space. The rest of the arm follows. That's a basic principle. It's good, for example, if you want me to reach out and grab a mouse or so on and so forth. FK is you grabbing the limb and moving it, and typically moving the rest of the limbs with it. It's simple, but it works. Getting everything that I've just gotten from all of those animations that I've done, 2D and 3D, and interpolation, and figuring out IK, and figuring out FK, I got some models online, and I threw together a very, very basic animation. And that's it. That's the 3D animation which I spent this entire unit working up to. I don't know how many times I could show it really, but I'm gonna show it again. It's meant to have the weight of the sword coming down, but I don't really have the other person reacting. I did that in about a day, by the way. That was fun. It's meant to show the impact of the punch itself, with the other guy recoiling, his head goes, and then his neck goes, and then his chest goes. I could have done better, I could have added sounds, I could have done VFX, but that's for next unit. This unit was me just researching. I feel like I've answered the question fairly well. I've come to terms with every step of the animation process in 2D and 3D. I don't really have just an any questions slide, but are there any questions?
If you were to make your 3D animation again with more time, what would you improve in it? Let's say you're not doing any more, but just that basic scene of like that punch. with the head going back, what would you change about it? You can also play it again if you want.
If I were to do the animation again, I would abandon the concept of having one person using a weapon and the other person not. The only reason I was able to get away with the arm blocking it was because it was a practice katana. It was made of bamboo. You could see it in the animation. So that's the first thing. Second thing, I would spend a lot more time on it rather than just a day, because I spent so long looking at 2D and 3D animation from before.
The question is, you've got more time.
I've got
That is
more
implying. What would you improve about it using the principles of animation?
I would focus more on exaggeration. I would maybe stretch bones out to make things look more weighty. I would... Come on, brain, I had something else. I've just drawn a blank.
Meanwhile, you'll think, do you want to play the animation again, please?
Yes, it is. So yeah, I would have picked a different model as well, because that model there, I don't know if you could tell, but when you were bending the elbow, or the shoulder rather, it was incredibly warped. But if I had more time, I would do some fancy VFX. I would maybe make the sword have like a trail going after it for the... I know the name of the technique, it's drawing a blank.
You can go back to the PowerPoint if you need to.
Yeah, it would show off the arcing, it would have the follow through and overlapping action, and it would exaggerate the swing itself. That's what I would do with the sword swing. My brain is just drawing blanks today.
It's fine. The characters that you got, did you also have to rig them, or were they already rigged?
They were rigged already.
Okay. Is there any changes you had to make to the rig, or anything you found that needs improving in the rig?
Well, there was the shoulder from before, which warped horribly. There was also the fact that getting a sword in the hands of the other of the character was borderline impossible, because they had hidden some of the bones that I needed to parent them to, and the actual like gripping of the sword, I had to connect that to 2 points. It was hard. I had to rig up the sword, and yeah, not doing that again if I can choose not to.
Okay, sure. That's all from me. Any other questions? No? Cool. Anything you want to add?
I don't think so.